This happened to my roommate and me 2 years ago when we drove into the national forest just outside of the town we live in. We go to a small college in New England, about 3 hours from any major city. For context, this forest has quite a few urban legends surrounding it, and the local community, although they do go there often, has a lot of superstitions about how to be safe while there. I had just broken up with my partner, and my roommate could sense I was feeling down. Finals were just around the corner, so she decided to help me get my mind off things and suggested we go to a nice spot she had found last week and just chill and distress. We took a couple of beers with us and drove to this secluded spot in the forest. From the moment we left the main asphalt road in the forest, I saw a couple of things that unsettled me. You could see the abandoned houses of a ghost town from the higher ground the road was on, and we saw this old doll hanging from a rope on a tree. Creepy shit, but we didn't really give it a second thought and kept driving. We got to a clearing and parked our car behind some trees, popped open the back of our SUV, and started just talking and playing music. About 10 minutes into this, 2 cars appeared from the road and parked in the clearing. My friend didn't pay them attention. Instead, she kept talking, but as I was facing them from where I sat, I couldn't stop seeing what they did. A guy popped out of each car, talked for a few minutes, and then I saw them take out a long object covered in a dark plastic bag from the back of one of the cars. This is when I noticed these guys had guns, and not like shotguns, which I see often in this town, but handguns. Then they started lighting the bag on fire. I told my friend to get down, and she turned around and saw them for the first time. Black smoke was rising from the bag, and between trying to keep my head down and steal glances at them, I saw them take out a second object, and heard them shoot at it right before they set it on fire. I don't know how long my friend and I were lying there in silence, but it was definitely enough to let the terror sink in and whisper to each other how much we loved each other in case this was what we thought it was. At some point, I looked up and saw that they were pointing at our car and saw them walking into the woods, maybe trying to follow our tracks or trying to look for us. All I know is that right then, I told my friend to jump into the driver's seat and make a run for it. I shut the back door, and between that and the car starting up, the guys heard it and started running towards us, then ran towards one of their cars and hopped in. We went over a hill, and driving way above what was safe for dirt roads on a hillside, we lost them. We drove to a neighboring town and roamed around for a while just to make sure no one was following us before we went back to our dorm. That day we tried to make fun of the whole situation and got really drunk before finally breaking down and crying from knowing we had seen something we were not supposed to. We were at first terrified of telling anyone, but eventually did tell officers on campus who contacted the police but never found anything. This happened in the Amazonas, on the border between Brazil and Peru. The jungle is an amazing place to live. Everyone knew each other, and I had a big group of friends of different ages. The only horrible part of the Amazon is the existence of terrorist groups that try to control the region. I was 7 when this happened. Every kid in the village knew we had the freedom to go anywhere as long as it's not close to the terrorists, and that we could never leave the village at night. My parents taught me since I was very little how to hide in case something happens, and to run if I see things will get dangerous. I remember all adults in the village were celebrating something. I think it was an Amazonian party like Halloween. I remember my mother painting her face in a tribal way, and all the children went together to a house to stay safe and have fun. The eldest girl was in charge. She was 17, and as soon as our parents left, she ignored us and left with her friends. Our closest group consisted of 6 children. I was one of the youngest ones, and we all listened to the most adventurous one, Leon, who was 14. Whatever Leon said, we followed because he was fun, always making challenges, and he knew how to take care of us. Yes, despite him being reckless, he was our friend. We loved him and knew he would never abandon us if something happened. After playing soccer and eating, the 6 of us became bored. Carla, one of the 6, had the idea to dress up like our parents did, with tribal makeup and dresses. We agreed, and soon we were all dressed up like the kids who lived in the deepest regions of the Amazon. I remember us playing around until Leon said, and I quote, "Let's explore the Amazon and find a hidden treasure." We all cheered and agreed to leave. It was easy to escape since the girl who was supposed to take care of us left. Leon managed to find a lantern and a boat big enough for us 6, and we decided to sail. It was around midnight, but we didn't care. Just imagine 6 kids dressed up, on a boat, splashing water everywhere and trying to find an imaginary treasure. No phones, no adults, just the jungle and us. It was life at its purest. Everything seemed to be perfect until we heard people calling, "Who's there?" And we saw a lighted boat approaching. Quickly, Leon dropped the lantern and instructed us to lay down on the boat's floor and stay very still. It was one of the scariest moments of my life. I remember clearly how we were all with our bellies to the floor, grabbing our hands and not even daring to breathe. But it was too late. "Stop hiding, I see you," a voice said as the guy illuminated our boat. We stood up and I saw 4 men with guns, and I'm not talking about small pistols, pointing at us. They laughed and said, "They're a bunch of children." Leon put himself in front and said that we were in a hurry because our parents were expecting us home. The biggest guy, who had a red bandana, laughed again and said, "Little kids should not be here alone at night. You could disappear here in the jungle and no one will ever find you." At this point, I was super scared, and Carla started crying. "You can go. You're just tribe Huahua," which means baby in Quechua. And they left. I remember all of us hugging each other, crying, and sailing as fast as we could. Once we got home, we entered the house and closed all doors and windows. We all slept together on the floor. But before that, we agreed not to tell anyone in the village, not the elders or our parents. Even now, no one knows what happened that night. Years later, I understood why they let us go. They thought we were kids from the local tribe. We had no value to them. If they had known we were dressed up and were from the village, I probably wouldn't be typing this story. My girlfriend lives in the forest. There are a few houses near hers, and it isn't particularly isolated, but she's on a couple of acres. There's a creek surrounding the property on 2 sides, a simple chicken wire fence on the other sides, and a long, ungated gravel drive. I visit her at night about once a week. She lives with her dad, and I can't really see her otherwise. Yes, it's risky and stupid, but she's worth it. Anyway, there is a little makeshift parking lot just a bit down the road from her house where my friend drops me off, and I wait until her dad goes to bed. There's a hiking trail right near there that the parking lot is for, and just off it is an old railroad station that is unused except for maintenance when the tour train season comes around. Now this thing is essentially nothing but a covered cement area with a bench and a beat-up recliner someone left there, but it's a lot more comfortable than standing around on the side of the road. I wait up there if things are taking too awfully long or if I have to get dropped off real early. So about 3 weeks ago, I was at that station thing, screwing around with my phone, waiting for the signal, and I hear somewhat heavy footsteps approaching. No big deal. Probably some homeless guy or night hiker. Now I'm not a small man. Good 6'1", 240 pounds, and decently muscled, and not exactly fear-stricken by footsteps. They pass behind the back wall of the place, stop, and it sounds like the guy leans against the wall. I called out, said something about being bored or wanting to talk or some such, and the footsteps start up again going in the other direction. Keep in mind it's pitch dark except for the moon and stars, and all I've got is a phone screen to light my way. I go around back, don't see anyone, whatever. Last week, while walking from the parking lot to her house, I have no way of knowing for sure, but it sounded like, the same heavy footsteps and rustling pretty distant start up behind me. There are deer and stuff around here, and I don't immediately make the connection, but after a second or two, I get that being watched feeling and turn around just as car headlights come into view. About 30 yards behind me, there is a rather large person shape on the other side of the road, illuminated by the headlights. My first thought is, fuck, it's her dad, and I froze. Bad move. I almost immediately realize I'm an idiot and start walking again, but my night vision is shot by the headlights, and I'm half blind when the car passes. I hear the guy cross the street, and I pick up the pace to a quick jog. Not sure what to think at this point, but a bit freaked out. I get to her place and get inside, and from the window I see another car pass, and the person seems to walk past the driveway and on down the road. I shook off the paranoia. When I left, I got the same being watched feeling, but I'm putting that down to nerves. Now, 2 days ago, I'm leaving her house, get to the bottom of the porch and sit down to tie my shoe, and I hear splashing. Big, clear splashing, like someone rushing across the creek. The creek splits in two around this small, thickly wooded island, and is about as wide as a 1-lane road on each side, but very, very shallow. It's at the bottom of a bare slope, and this entire thing is at least 50 yards from the house. It sounded like this guy was sprinting flat out, and I booked it the fuck out of there. He followed me all the way, from what sounded like the side of the road. I'm scared out of my fucking head, and looking back every few steps, and I hear him but can't see anyone near me. I'm walking in the middle of the road, not one car comes, and I hear his feet hit the pavement when it was just gravel crunching and rustling on the side of the road before. I break into a run past the parking lot to the only streetlight in the area, at an intersection, and just glimpse this man in a black hoodie disappear into the trees on the other side of the road. I call my buddy, who should have been waiting for me. I stand there in the street talking to him and listening to this stomping and rustling around me. I didn't see him cross the road, but I swear to God it sounded like he was right there. Every few minutes there was another stomp and rustle and twig snap from another direction. It wasn't a wild animal, it wasn't a mugger. It was someone trying to mess with me, or else I would have seen them or heard them the whole time or been directly attacked. I spent a good 10 minutes terrified and babbling about it to my friend before he got there, and I swear to God we both saw the guy come out of the trees and wave at me when we turned around to go home. I still don't know who this guy is or why this is happening, but I am scared out of my mind for my girlfriend's safety and I don't know what to do.